What's going on, everybody? Teddy Baldassarre from teddybaldassarre.com. In this video, we're going to be looking at a watch available for purchase on my website with the Marathon Navigator, the more affordable option, or one of the more affordable options from Marathon's lineup of watches. So at any point throughout this video, you want to learn more about this timepiece, hit the link in the description. We'll have more details, but also if you have more questions about this watch or any other watch on my website, you can book a call with me personally, and I can help you through your next purchase. But guys, let's take a closer look at this watch.
First, looking at a rundown of the specs here, we have a case size of 41 millimeters, thickness of 11 millimeters, lug width of 20 millimeters, lug to lug of 47.7 millimeters, water resistance we have 60 meters, movement we have a quartz ETA, crystal is sapphire, and price is $270 to $280. So before we get into the details of this piece, a little background on Marathon. So Marathon Watch Company has roots back to the early 1900s. It began really dipping its toes into the world of military-issued timepieces in 1941, producing watches and timing instruments for the Allied forces. In the decades following, this brand's ethos has really just been continued as they developed watches for military use, being used by US soldiers and Canadian Armed Forces. The company today operates out of Canada, with all their watches being produced in Switzerland, and really pride themselves on creating watches that can be more than suitable on both military personnel as well as enthusiasts that are just looking for a rugged watch that can take a beating. Now, I have covered the search and rescue watches on the channel already. I could link down below, which are more diver-centric in terms of their aesthetics and actual use by military personnel. However, here with the Navigator, we have a watch instead of handling the taxing conditions on land, was made to handle the forces of being thousands of feet in the air, with this being a pilot's watch. So the creation of this watch stems from the need by pilots to have a legible watch in the cockpit that was able to handle pressure changes and the G-forces experienced by pilots themselves. This request came from the United States Armed Forces, and this watch was one of Marathon's answers to that request in the 1980s, and is now one of the brand's best sellers both for consumers and personnel. This Navigator here we have is a newer addition to the line, has a couple up specs, and this watch is available both with a US government marking as well as without any logo at all. First, looking at this watch on the wrist, we have a solid case size of 41 millimeters that works quite well in this instance, as the case does not extend too far across the wrist when factoring in the lug to lug, making this appropriately sized for the majority of the wrists out there. The case dimensions sit on the wrist well as one fully constructed piece, given the more block construction of the case, as the lugs feel more as part of the case rather than their own separate parts, which in this case helps in the size being more versatile. The black fiber shell case has a matte finish, assisting in the sleek looks of this watch. This case also has a surface that really absorbs light and is stealthily in its look, and continued with that black NATO strap that comes with this watch and doesn't feature the underneath layer of fabric, which I happen to be a big fan of, as it will lead to the watch laying on the wrist way more compact. Along the 3 o'clock side of the case, we have a rounded off aspect of the watch that doubles as crown guards to protect the crown and crown stem from damage, which in previous version was an issue given the crown was not made of stainless steel, but that concern no longer is present here as a result of the stainless steel crown now being featured on these. This asymmetrical style case is not going to be for everyone, but surprisingly you don't really notice it when you do have it strapped on. Along the outside of the sapphire crystal, we have a rotating bidirectional bezel that has no audible click, but is really smooth in its action and features a 12-hour array of markings in order to track an additional time zone, which of course would be very useful for pilots. Within the small triangular marking at the 12 o'clock, we have some luminescent material here that matches the tritium tubes on the dial within the syringe style hands. The tritium comes in 2 separate shades, with the 12 o'clock numeral featuring an orange shade, and the other markings come in a more natural green tint. As I try to mention in all my videos, with watches featuring tritium, it's a material that is going to be quite different from that of superluminova, for example, as unlike superluminova that responds to a light source to emit luminescence that will shine brighter than tritium, it will gradually fade quite quickly in comparison. On the contrary, tritium might not shine as bright as superluminova, but it does emit a constant light source and will not fade quickly like that of superluminova, making it a very good choice for those that are operating in complete darkness. That said, if you're familiar with vintage watches, you know that tritium will eventually fade, and Marathon states that these will last up to 25 years. On the other parts of the dial, we have a traditional layout that you will find on many Marathon watches, as along the outside we have the detailed line minute track, large white hour markers for the 12 and 24 hour scale, an optional date window nestled between the 4 and the 5, and the writing of Swiss made at the bottom of the dial, where Marathon has been producing their watches since 1939. And finally, the radiation symbol at the 3 o'clock that marks that this watch is in compliance with the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Flipping the watch over, we have a few of the common military style markings on Marathon watches. In addition, unlike the mechanical offerings from Marathon, this watch comes with a battery hatch in order to change the battery powering the Swiss quartz movement within, the ETA F06. This movement runs with great accuracy of minus 0.3 to plus 0.5 seconds per day and includes an end-of-life battery indicator that will tick the seconds hand once every 4 seconds to inform you that the battery is needing change. And the battery that is used here is a 371 cell battery that will actually be very easy for someone to just change themselves and will not even have to happen often, as it will last up to 5 years in battery life. Now, when looking at Marathon watches, I commonly associate the search and rescue models primarily with the brand, but these Navigators are really great sellers, and I think for an entry-level point and looking at the overall landscape of watches, if you're somebody that wants this military spec watch, I think this is a great watch to consider. And yes, there might be some certain things that you could call out, I think, in comparison to other more robust watches like the search and rescue models with higher water resistance and perhaps being more able to take a beating. Plus, maybe having a coarse movement here might not be for you. But I think when you combine the improvements of, say, the stainless steel crown, for example, you're getting sapphire crystal on this, a very attractive price tag as well. I think when combined with Marathon and just the looks that we come to expect with the brand, I think this is a really awesome watch to consider for under $300.
So guys, thank you again for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon if you did enjoy it. Also, if you're interested in purchasing this watch, link in the description down below to do so. And if you do have more questions, you can actually book a call with me and I can help out with this watch, as well as any other watch you're looking for on my website. So guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.